Rescuing minds from QAnon. That's the name of the game today. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing all right. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm just recovering from COVID still, so bear with me if I have to stop and cough or stop and take a big deep breath or accidentally spit as I just did there. Oh Christ, don't knock everything over. So my intention for today's live is that it's going to be a bit shorter than your average live. I'm aiming for about 30 minutes. I suppose we should just crack on. Just let me know that you can see me and hear me and everything in the chat if possible. Yeah, we can get on with this. First things first. Here we go. Yeah, so the name of the game today, the topic for today's little live stream is going to be about QAnon and talking about sort of how to talk to people who have been red pilled. I have to say this now, or Ned pilled merchandise. You can't see it, but this is, there you go. Ned holding a red pill in the merch store, link in the description. Sorry, it had to be done. I've pulled my waistline right up. Here we go. But yeah, so how to talk to people who've been red pilled. That's the topic for discussion today. I've made a few notes, but first things first, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays if you're celebrating something else right now, I guess, or just sort of speaking more broadly over this period. Yeah, thank you everybody that's here. I'm just going to do a little run through and say hello to everyone that I see in the chat at the moment. Notja, Need Some Peace, Mark, Christine, Share, Novo. Hello everybody, welcome. Thank you for coming along. Rogue Nerd as well, hi. Yeah, so shall we talk about Christ, sorry. I'll try not to do that directly into the microphone. Oh Christ. That's probably going to get worse as we go on. One of the many reasons I want to keep this relatively short today. Because yeah, COVID cough. Amazing. Top quality entertainment, right? So yeah, I suppose I'll just say quickly, sorry that there's not been any videos going out. I've been laid up with COVID, and then the week before that was kind of the worst week to have took a week off because it was the week before I got COVID. Yeah, I'm starting to feel better. As you can see, I'm able to do this, and I'm hoping that soon we'll be able to put some new normal videos out as well. So bear with. Please hang in there and watch old videos in the meantime to keep the channel alive, because YouTube does have a very short memory. Yeah, so okay. How to help people break away from QAnon. I think when it comes to QAnon, I think the first thing to comment on is that it is a little bit like a cult, and it's a little bit like conspiracy theory subculture more generally as well. So I think the first thing to say really is that pretty much all of what I talked about in my video, how to help a loved one out of a cult, I think that's what it's called. You'll know it when you see it. Pretty much all of that is relevant here, and I've put that in the pinned comment below as well, so you can check that one out after this if you haven't seen that and you are trying to talk to a patriot this Christmas. Yeah, because really, I think really with anything like this, when you're trying to talk to someone whose version of reality doesn't quite correspond with your version of reality, and I think that's a really important point on shared reality, which I'll come back to in a sec. But I think when it comes to talking to people whose reality doesn't quite match up with yours, it's really important, I think, to... Oh, Christ. Sorry, Ned's just running right. Ned, what are you doing? Ned. 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 Please don't wreck the rebounder. He's already made rips in it. I'm just gonna leave him, and I'm just gonna hope that he doesn't do anything too catastrophic. It's looking like it's going that way. Sorry. But yeah, when it comes to talking to people in cults and conspiracy theories, subcultures, I think the same thing sort of applies. Try not to condescend, try not to belittle them. If you can appear persuadable, that's a great way to appear. Just sort of give non-committal answers and ask questions that make them think a little bit. That's what I've found works anyway. And I think it's an important moment to just remind everybody I'm not an expert on this. I'm just a concerned citizen who's done some reading on it, who's got some experience with this. So please do look things up, do your own research as well. I've got a resources page on one of my websites that I always put in the descriptions of these videos. So you can go ahead and check that out if you want to do a bit of reading on any of this stuff. Ned, do one. He's decided now's the time to run riot. If he tries to jump from there, the light might come down. Oh, thank fuck for that. Oh, is that the first swear word of the live stream? Fantastic. Yeah, right. Yeah, Rogue Nerd, I've just seen in the chat you said it appears that QAnon people seem to like Trump as well. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of foundational to QAnon. If you're not too familiar with QAnon, then you might not know this, but they basically think Trump's like the Messiah. They think he's really, really great. Yeah, they Ned, get down. Come on now, it's not fair. You've been calm all day. Stay calm for another half hour, boy. Yeah, they love Trump. QAnon lot. They absolutely love him. They reckon he's the answer to all of the world's problems, pretty much. Which, you know, anyone who's not into QAnon or anyone who's not into the whole MAGA thing will probably agree that that's a pretty wild thing to believe. But you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I think when it comes to talking to these people, the trick... I'm sorry about this. Ned, behave. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, appearing persuadable, I've found is really worthwhile when it comes to talking to people who are into these sort of alternate reality trips like cults and QAnon and conspiracy theories in general. It's because if you're talking to them and you're coming at them whether you're in a cult and you believe what you believe is a load of shit and all that kind of stuff, they're not going to listen. Obviously, they're not going to listen. I just have to say I'm very worried that this light's going to come down at some point in this live. So if it does, bear with. I'll put it back up as soon as I can. Hopefully it doesn't, but Ned's in that mood. I don't know if you can hear him like meowing and doing this little sort of thing that he does. Ned, could you have some respect, please? Hey, other people have lives. It's something that I say too often to an animal that doesn't understand it. Absolute chaos. What is this? This is absolute chaos today. Pandemonium. Yeah, that light is going to fall down at some point during this live. It's going to bring it on. Marie, hi. I'm glad you could make it. And yeah, I'll try not to overdo it with the live. I'm keeping it chill. I'm keeping it chillaxed. But yeah, I think something that also is worth saying with QAnon as well is that from what I've been able to sort of see, oh, thank you, Mark and Marie for sending the super stickers. I can't see what they are because I'm inside StreamYard, but there's the light getting knocked. Ned, come here, or not. He's not in that mood. He's in the I'm gotta run fast mood. Yeah, thank you for sending those stickers. I can't see what they are at the moment, but I'll check them out after. But yeah, the thing with QAnon is that the people that are into it seem to be like really well-meaning people, like genuinely, like they think that they're doing some good and that what they believe is true, obviously. I mean, but it's more than that. I think it comes from a place of like real concern, like really caring about people and the world and children. Like they're really weirdly protective of children. But then I suppose you would be too if you believed in the whole adrenochrome thing and stuff. So yeah, I think that's something that's really, really important to consider. So I've got a cough that's like on the edge. Or Ned, why? I'll just stay there now. That'll be fine. Anyway. Yeah. So wow, that was a fast cat. Yeah, so I think with QAnon that's something else to bear in mind as well. Just these are typically well-meaning people. These are typically people that, you know, they're not like some people who are into stuff like this. They've got like a real thing. They've got like a real bee in their bonnet. That's the phrase. They've got like a real bee in their bonnet about stuff, haven't they? And they're just like, oh, the system, man. And they are like, a lot of them are willfully disruptive and they want to sort of get a rise out of you and stuff, which I can relate to. But I think with QAnon, a lot of people are very sort of just normal, well-meaning people who have heard about this thing, and they sort of, unfortunately, haven't maybe got the critical faculties or sort of haven't practiced with the skepticism quite enough. And so it's got them when it might not have got them if they had been a little bit sort of been approaching things a bit differently or believed a few different things beforehand, because a lot of this stuff tends to also play into what people already believe, you know. But yeah, let me just check through the chat a little bit. So Novo has just said, so like lot of conspiracism cults, a small grain of truth and a vast amount of hyperbole. Yeah, I mean that's also like, you could say that of the New Age as well, couldn't you? A vast amount of hyperbole and a small grain of truth, I think, although possibly a smaller grain of truth than QAnon even. But these cats are going absolutely wild right now. We've got to do that there as well, like right here. You can't see it, but it's chaos. Yes, Medusa's madness. I am drinking plenty of liquids. But yeah. So where were we on this whole QAnon thing? Just check my notes because I have made some notes. There was another question actually that also was sent regarding QAnon, which was, what do I think the future holds for QAnon, which I've made a few notes on as well. So if we've got some time in a minute, we'll talk about that a little bit. But I wanted to sort of talk about the whole rescuing minds from QAnon thing as a focal point, because, you know, this whole channel really is, it's kind of geared towards that point of where people are looking at leaving cults, or we're sort of looking for another point of view and sort of turning away. And although more recently, obviously, I have been talking more about New Age and stuff, but I think it's still that kind of intersection. So I wanted to talk about this mostly. But I think I've basically covered the main points I wanted to make, really, other than don't expect them to change their minds. Like if you're talking to a family member or someone who's into QAnon, a patriot, then just if you're talking to them and you feel like you're getting through to them and then they seem to backpedal, just don't expect them to change their minds then and there. These things take time, and usually, although with QAnon, red pilling does happen really, really fucking quickly. Usually, it does tend to take, it's sort of incremental, and it does tend to unfold over the course of a day or 2 days, maybe a week or so. It's really hard to know what's going on behind closed doors when people sort of, especially like public figures who weren't pilled at all, they were just like a normal person, like a wellness influencer or something, and then like bam, a week later they're just suddenly talking about the deep state and Pizzagate and all this kind of stuff. It's hard to know how long that's actually been going on behind the scenes, but it does seem to be fairly quick. However, it takes a little while usually for this kind of a change of perspective to occur. And by a little while, it could be anything from a couple of days to a couple of weeks. So it might take that long. Excuse me, Tam. Tam. Thank you. Face in the bin. Yeah. That's the other cat that's not Ned, the older sort of chunkier boy. But yeah, so when it comes to QAnon, just bear in mind it might take a little while for it to unravel, and also please bear in mind that it's not your responsibility to unpill them. You know, that's their business, and you can only do what you can do. Don't take it too hard if it doesn't seem like it's working, doesn't seem like you're getting through to them, you know, because as I say, these things take time, and this is a weird thing. Tama tape. Watch out, guys. Hanging out with Andy makes you 10% less work. That's true. That is true. In every sense of the word. What happens when you wake up from the woke joke and realize law of attraction is menudo science? You start taking a little bit more responsibility for your actions and your choices, and then you just probably chill out a little bit more and stop being quite so anxious about all your thoughts and feelings. That's what happened for me anyway. Yeah, that's the point. If there's anything anyone wants me to have to say a quick word on in the chat, just drop your questions or comments in the chat, and I will. Tam, excuse me, I'd like to keep that light upright if possible. Yeah, just drop anything you'd like me to chat about briefly in the chat, and I'll come to it just before we finish. I'm probably not going to talk about like everything. I'll do my best to get through as much as I can, but as I say, I'm trying to keep this sort of at 30 minutes or so. But yeah, if there's anything you want me to chat about quickly, drop it in the chat and we'll get to it shortly. If anyone's wondering, yes, my hair is greasy. It's too greasy. And that's because I have been ill and I haven't got to wash it yet. Don't judge me. Whoa. I know what you're thinking. Don't think that, because I will be washing at some point. So, hey, Lindell Lee. Aloha from Mexico. Also, hola. But yeah, so let's just have a couple of minutes talking about what the future might hold for QAnon. Tam, if you could get your face out of the bin, that would be absolutely fucking grand, boy. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about what the future might hold for QAnon. Now, I'm not, it has to be said, I don't know everything about QAnon. I know some stuff about QAnon. I have an approximate knowledge of most things. You'll learn that about me sooner or later. But yeah, I don't know everything about it, and I'm also not a prophet. Speaking of prophets, someone did say in the chat a little while ago, the world didn't end on the 21st of December. No, it didn't. We're still here, aren't we? But I honestly don't even think Ralph Smart thought the world would end on the 21st of December. He was backtracking the second he started talking about it. So, you know, he left an escape hatch in his prediction. But that is another video for another time. So we will talk about that at some point. I'm still intending to make that video talking about Ralph Smart's end of the world prediction and his 2020 predictions in general, and also the Teal Swan 2020 forecast. But please bear with, as I say, still recovering from COVID. So yeah, we will, we'll see. I'll do that as soon as I can, really, provided nothing else needs to happen in the meantime on the channel. But yeah, so what do I think the future holds for QAnon? I've written some notes. I'll just read through them here. So I think it's worth saying, it's worth saying about QAnon that I see it as a sort of potentially fascistic conspiracy movement that's loosely cultic. I don't personally don't see it as like a cult, but it's very cult-like in how it operates, in the way that they sort of approach other ideas that aren't their ideologies, and the way that they sort of pull the rug out from under their the way that they sort of pull the rug out from under their followers and stuff. Tam wants to come and say hi. Come on then, boy. You can sit here and stay there, and then I can keep talking, yeah? Please. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, that's the point. I was also going to talk about shared reality. Let's talk about shared reality quickly, because I don't want to forget about that. So I've been reading a book recently called, I think it's called Losing Reality. I think it's by Robert J. Lifton, who is an absolute don on sort of cult stuff. Basically wrote the book on cult stuff, thought reform and the psychology of totalism. But this book I've been reading recently, I did stop reading it when I got struck down with COVID, but it's a fascinating read. And one of the things he talks about in it is this idea of reality. And although it's been quite difficult for us to really define reality in a way that we can all agree on, he sort of talks about there being two kind of types of reality, or two levels of reality. There's like the level of reality that's very subjective, that each of us sort of has our own version of, and then there's the level of reality that we all share, that we need to share in order for our society to function, especially with regards to things like democracy. And it seems that what's been happening, especially in the Trump era, and with things like QAnon, MAGA, and other similar political things, on both sides, and I won't get into it, but on both sides, the version of reality that we all seem to share has been eroded somewhat and had its land taken up by the version of reality that is subjective. And I think that the trouble with that is that it does make it harder to have a conversation with people. It does make it harder to find things that we can agree on, like a sort of common ground that we can go from when we're talking to people who, for example, are in QAnon, who are patriots, and in other things like cults and sort of subcultures or countercultural things like the New Age movement and things like that as well. It can make it harder to have a conversation if you don't agree on like some things, at least. Wow, a little whistle there. Is there a creature in the Wind of the Willows that has that in their teeth, or am I thinking of like some cartoon? It's like a cartoon mole at some point in my life I've seen on the telly that has a whistle in their teeth that the image of comes into my head every single time that happens to me. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, I think that the tricky thing is that when you don't have that level of shared reality with sort of people en masse, it can be really difficult to have a conversation. It can be really difficult to reach a point where you agree on even slightly something like QAnon. There's going to be small pieces in there that we can agree on, and I think that's also an important thing when it comes to talking to people who are involved in these kinds of things, finding those small things that you do agree on. Like, for example, there is such a thing as reasonable suspicion of government. That's absolutely a very reasonable point of view, and it's the unreasonable thing is, of course, making claims without evidence, and there's a lot of that in QAnon. But of course, they think they've got evidence, so you have to navigate that as well. But yeah, when the shared reality is eroded and taken over by the subjective reality, it's harder and harder to have conversations with people. So I think that that's something that's really worth bearing in mind if you are talking to people, to try to find the part of reality that you still do share, and go from there as well. Let me just check the chat and see what we're saying here. Tam, why? This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so Just checking through the chat. It looks like the conversation has kind of dissolved into just, yeah, okay, snakes and lions and cats and what is real. Yeah, so Tam's still here now. He's just gone over this side. Tam is an absolute love junkie. He can't get enough attention. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what the future might hold for QAnon. I'll just remind you, if there's anything in particular you want me to talk about before we round up today, just drop it in the chat. Just make it clear that you want me to talk about it. Otherwise, I might miss it, or I might think you're just speaking to everyone else in the chat. So just drop that in the chat. Also, I'm trying to revive my Twitter. There's a little band going across the bottom. It's got my Twitter @ on it. So if you're on Twitter, please follow me. Sorry about the background noise. Yeah, and I've been on there and I've been chatting a bit more. So if you want to chat to me on Twitter or whatever, have a bit of banter or whatever, then that's the place to do it. Also, if you like the kind of content that I'm making, then please go ahead and consider supporting the channel on Patreon. There's some perks I've set up on there for anyone who does that. You can go ahead and check the link out in the description after this live stream. And yeah, very grateful for everybody that supports me on Patreon. It's I just love that people are like, hey, I like what you're doing, I'm going to give you money. It always blows me away that that's the case. But yeah, and also, yeah, if you want to go ahead and join the Facebook group or the Discord server, those links are in the description as well. Just basically reiterating what is on the screen at the moment. But yeah, so that said, let's talk a bit about what might be the future for QAnon. So this is just what I think, and as if I have to say that, because I don't fucking know, do I? No one fucking knows. Like, the future is unwritten. But yeah, so let me just have a quick drink of water. We'll talk about that a little bit. Wow. If you can avoid COVID, avoid COVID. It's not nice. That's my PSA for the day. I wrote something about that on Facebook earlier, because I still hear people going, well, I'll survive it. It's like, that's not the point. It's not nice. You don't want it. Trust me. Anyway, I could do 30 minutes on that alone, but I won't. I'll spare you. But yeah. So I've said that I see QAnon as a sort of potentially fascistic conspiracy movement that's somewhat cultic, somewhat cult-like. And the reason I say potentially fascistic is because although we don't necessarily have the sort of I'm going to use some words now, socio-economic sort of political climate for fascism in the way that it has appeared in the past, you know, Mussolini, Hitler. Oh, there's my circumstances right now. It's not quite the same climate. It's not quite the same petri dish. That doesn't, you know, rule out other kinds of fascism necessarily, like neo-fascism or anything like that. And so I sort of see it being that like, if a single leader begins to sort of rally this sort of Trumpless orphan patriotic mass after Biden takes office, and it is, let's be fair, it is possible that Trump may be that, because once he's not in office anymore, he's not got to act presidential in, let's be fair, in any way that he might have been up until now. And I don't know that has, if this is him presidential, I don't know what to expect. But yeah, it's possible that he might be this person. But if any kind of leader begins to rally the masses around more of a singular version of QAnon, because the thing is with conspiracy theories in general, and QAnon is definitely this is definitely the case with QAnon as well, is that everyone's got their own demarcation line. Everyone's got the line past which anything that's been suggested is just preposterous, right? And that's different for everybody. You know, some conspiracy theory people fully believe, or don't know if this is still the vogue conspiracy theory, but like everyone, there used to be the thing of, you know, 9/11's an inside job, and the Illuminati is controlling the world events and all of that kind of stuff, right? But some of those people didn't believe in lizard shapeshifters, but some of them did. For some people, the line was drawn at lizard shapeshifters, right? And I think now with QAnon, that's also true. Like, there's definitely more that they do all kind of share in what they believe, and there's definitely sort of like an official line in QAnon, in the sense that it is this sort of weird crowd-funded fiction, where crowdsourced fiction, where it's really just the most exciting version of events, the most convincing story that people come up with in whatever forum they're on, online forum they're in that moment, that sort of catches on and becomes the QAnon narrative. There is still a diversity of opinion. There is still a diversity of you know, what people believe here and there. And I think that if someone were to come in, charismatic figure, let's say, potential for sort of cult leader sort of a situation, came in and started to rally people around more sort of whatever sort of, you know what I'm trying to say, something, is the word monolithic, then I could definitely see it becoming some sort of weird neo-fascist regime. I could see that happening. Unfortunately, let's not forget that, you know, fascism and conspiracy theories are very, very keen bedfellows. This is not, you know, this is not unusual in fascism. So, and there's a good book on that I'm trying to remember the author's name now. I think the book's called The Anatomy of Fascism, and I have that in my resources on my site, but I'm not sure. But you'll be able to find the author's name if you look up the book The Anatomy of Fascism. It's a bit of a dry read, that one, but it's worth it. It's very interesting. But yeah, so I talked about the demarcation line a little bit as well, didn't I? I did put that down here in my notes. Yeah. Also, there's something to bear in mind with QAnon, is that a lot of them are Christian as well. Like, that's one thing that does unite QAnon people, QAnon patriots, is that a lot of them are Christian, which is, I would say it's bizarre, but it's kind of not. Like, I think whenever you get these sorts of groups, and I think a lot of them are sort of evangelical Christian as well, when you get these kinds of groups that are really intense, like really gung-ho about one specific thing, like Jesus, for example, I personally don't, it's too far-fetched to imagine that they are going to start to get into other really strange ideas at some point, you know, like with the New Age. We've seen that, and I did do a video on I think it was called New Agers Can't Stop Getting Red Pilled or something, which is worth a watch on this if you haven't seen it, on why New Agers seem to be so friendly, or so, it's like they're so ready to get red pilled. It's their minds are red pill fertile, right? And I think that is evangelical Christianity as well in QAnon, but their entry point seems to be different. Like with the New Age thing, there is that systemic distrust or mistrust or whatever the word is, that you see in the New Age, that's also present in QAnon. And so, and conspiracy theories in general, really, but in New Age, there's sort of anti sort of establishment sentiment anyway, an anti-mainstream sentiment. And really, it's that there was a study I saw, I tweeted about it the other day, about this sort of spiritual superiority thing that they did. And I don't know how good this study was. I felt I had a few things that I thought I would probably have done that a bit differently if I was running the study. But I wasn't, so who am I to criticize? Beggars can't be choosers. in the study, they got people who were into mindfulness, and then they got people who were into sort of like energy work and this sort of that stuff. I think that was what it was. And they sort of asked them a bunch of questions, and they found that the people who were into the more sort of new agey stuff, the idea of, I'm special, I've got powers and blah, 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 they came up higher on this sort of spiritual superiority scale, right? And I think that idea, and you do sort of see that. This wasn't a surprise to me. It wasn't a revelation, because you do see that in the new age kind of stuff. People do think they're the fucking dog's bollocks. They reckon they're the best thing since sliced bread. Look at me, I've got powers. I can solve all of I'm basically Jesus. That's sort of how a lot of new agers sort of think and talk. So it's not surprising that they would segue from that worldview into the QAnon worldview, which is, again, we've got the truth. This is the big secret, that's hiding in plain sight, and we're the clever ones for figuring it out. That it's not too far away, and of course you've got sort of your anti-vaxxers, which are a little cobble on there as well for that, and so there's commonalities in all these things. So what the future holds is, to sort of come back to that, without Trump, I can't necessarily see it gaining momentum quite as quickly as it has during the pandemic with Trump, because people aren't sort of sitting at home and sort of bored out of their minds, or they won't be at some point, hopefully soon, with the vaccine and everything. So that is probably won't be going at quite the rate it has been. But without Trump in office, that doesn't necessarily rule Trump out as a QAnon figure. It wouldn't surprise me if, as soon as he's out of office, he starts going to QAnon rallies or starts organizing QAnon rallies of his own. Like I could see that happening. Tell me I'm crazy, but I think that is likely. But yeah, it will, though. It will continue to morph, though, I think, as well, because that's kind of the nature of it. It's changed a lot since it first sort of came about. And the whole Save the Children thing became, that was sort of soft QAnon, wasn't it? That brought a lot of new people in. So you can kind of see how, while we don't know what form it will take in the coming months and years, it will definitely be sticking around. I think, unfortunately, it will continue to morph, and it will continue to be giving people that sense of significance and that feeling that they know something that other people don't know. That's my thinking on that, anyway. What else have we got here? I haven't been checking the chat, so hopefully it's not become an absolute disaster with people. Have we had any patriots here that I've missed? Hey, thank you, Unholy Shade, for the $5 super sticker, and thank you, Christine, for the $5 super sticker. Very grateful for that. Just seeing those come through. But yeah, hopefully you're able to sort of see me and hear me all right, and everything's going okay. I just see someone just said there's been a bit of a lag. But yeah, so outside of that, on the QAnon future thing, we may see more QAnon politicians taking office. I would hope that those sort of politicians and other public figures are only using QAnon to sort of tap that dem to get into office, and then they'll just sort of drop it. It's not a nice attitude or behavior, but I would hope that they're not genuinely red-pilled. I know some of them are. And Joe Ray Perkins is one, as far as I know. Don't quote me on that, but from what I've heard, she's pretty on it still. But yeah, hopefully they're just appealing to it as a voting demographic rather than being actually red-pilled. But I mean, even that's not great, let's be fair. But yeah, other than that, I might be wrong about everything I've just said. We'll see. In a way, I kind of hope I am, but I hope I'm not wrong in a way that it's worse. But yeah, the merging of the QAnon and New Age will probably continue, and at least for as long as the pandemic continues and people are in lockdown, which I know isn't the case everywhere. Some people have responded appropriately to the pandemic, some countries, and others are just just being ridiculous. But for as long as the pandemic and lockdowns continue, I could definitely see QAnon numbers continuing to increase because, well, people are just bored. People are on the internet and learning stuff, doing their own research. So, yeah. Okay, so let me just check through the chat. If there's anything anyone wants me to talk about before we end, I'm happy to do that. Just drop it in the chat. I'm going to go through now and see if there's anything to respond to. And yeah, I probably won't be running too much longer, but I will be out on Twitter after this. So yeah, I'm gonna be on Twitter a bit more now than I have been the last month or two. I've reinstalled it on my phone because despite surveillance capitalism being ominous and terrifying, I also don't really believe in their capacity to influence me too much because they're pretty shit at the moment. So we'll see. The cats have gone back to sleep now in each other's loving embrace, whatever. Mark Bright, fight crazy conspiracy theories with other even crazier conspiracy theories. Yeah, I mean that's the way to do it, isn't it? That's the way to do it. That's what I kind of think with like the surveillance capitalism thing. It's like I was talking to Shade recently, and they were like, "It sounds like a conspiracy theory," and I'm like, "I know it does, but it's real. Like reality is bad enough. If everyone who was into conspiracy theories just pulled their head out of the sand and then and then maybe got their hands on deck to help figure out what this mess that we're in, then we'd have more hands on deck is all I'm saying. But yeah, what else we got? What else is being said here? Scrolling through. Mark, I'm a shape-shifting lizard person. Cool, good good for you. You and Elvis, who's definitely still kicking around somewhere. New Age to Jesus is the latest trend. Watch out. Yeah, I've done 2 videos on that already, Tama. And yeah, it's wild. It is a very strange country. Self-proclaimed New Age gurus are spiritual egomaniacs. I'd be inclined to agree. So I'm not subscribed to Ralph Smart on YouTube, but because YouTube knows that I watch his videos sometimes for obvious reasons, it shows me his community tab sometimes in my feed thing. And he posted something earlier about like describe me in one word, and it's like a picture of him like doing his sort of really cringy sort of emotionless smile. And could I think of a few words? But it's just sitting there, Rose and I were sitting, like, I'm not going to tell you what words we were choosing, but they weren't aggressive words, but they were accurate. I'll say that much. I'm basically Jesus, best thing I've said all day. Yeah, with no context, that's still true. But yeah, so I honestly think I'm closer to Jesus than most people, because first of all, I'm white and I've got long hair, which, as we all know, was Jesus. I can't even talk anymore. Apparently, Jesus also can't talk. Novo, you've said Sam Vaknin, professor of psychology and an expert on narcissism, talks about unscrupulous gurus promulgating the law of attraction, which is just an omnipotent, grandiose fantasy. Yeah, so I've seen a bit of Sam Vaknin's stuff, and because Rosa was watching a lot of it at one point, talking about whether Jesus was a narcissist or something like that. I reckon Jesus was a cult leader. Like, if what the Bible says is true, Jesus was legit a cult leader. Like, just look at that. Like that thing about, just leave your family behind and follow me. I mean, that smacks a cult leader, doesn't it? Let's be fair. I am playing, but it doesn't look good. But yeah, so Tama, Andy, what can we expect from you in 2021? Hopefully more of the same. Hopefully, I will be putting out. I say hopefully. I intend to be putting out videos every week as soon as I can get back into that routine. Although I do like the idea of not putting them out every week and just sort of making sure they're really, really, really good and just putting them out as often as I can. But I realize that in doing that, the algorithm's not on my side. So for the foreseeable future, I will be putting them out every week. I've been trying to figure out like what I really, really, really want to talk about, to be honest with you. I've talked about the new age a lot lately, more this year than I did last year. Obviously, when I first came back to YouTube, I was talking a lot more about cults, and then that's sort of gradually become sort of me talking more about the new age in general. So probably a bit of both of those things. Although I'll probably be talking about cults in a new age context, because that really seems to be the thing that people want to hear from me on. You know, generally those are the videos that are doing better, and that's kind of the thing that I respond to a lot of times. Obviously, I'm not just going to talk about stuff just for the views, otherwise I might as well have a Minecraft channel. But you know, I'm trying to figure out what it is at the moment that I am really passionate about talking about, which has been a bit difficult, and I have sort of slacked on ideas a little bit. So I will say this: if there is anything that you do want me to talk about, if there's anything that you want to hear my take on, I'm open to ideas, as long as there's a video in it. I will definitely consider talking about it. So let me know. Feel free to drop any suggestions in like comment sections, or if you're on Twitter, come at me on Twitter with your suggestions, or Facebook, Discord, whatever. Also, if there's ever any questions, if there's anything that you want me to like answer, a question you want me to answer, I've got a Q&A section on my Discord server, which no one uses. Literally no one's used that ever. But I'm always up for answering questions, and I do like to do Q&As on occasion. It's the only time I really live stream on the channel. So if there's any time if there's anything that you want me to talk about with that, then I'm happy to do that anytime, answer any questions or whatever. So let me just go through what's being said here. I've got a bit of phlegm here. Sorry about that. Oh, gross. That's not what you want, is it? So, Christine, you have said the Love Has Won group would be a very interesting topic. Any thoughts? I've looked into this a little bit, and it just seems, sorry to say it, but it just seems really trashy and just like really toxic. Just like people who are just being just really fucking nasty with each other. And in a way, I don't want to put myself on their radar because who wants that? It seems to be operating very much like your average sort of new age cult kind of a thing from what I've seen. Could be wrong, but I may do it if I can find a way of doing it without putting myself on their radar too much and getting sort of the obvious vitriol that comes with talking about cults. But yeah, I think the way that I might talk about it and other things is I may do more videos like the one I did. The one I did recently where I was talking about sort of 4 different sort of new agey, culty kind of people, where I used those as examples. Do you remember that? I think it was like how new age YouTube teachers melt your mind or something like that. The format for that, the idea I got came from Anna's Analysis, who suggested to do that kind of a format, because I said I want to talk about actualized, right? But I don't know enough about actualized.org to talk about it. And loads of people keep saying to me, please talk. That's like been my most requested video topic, to talk about actualized.org. So I've been like, how can I do that if I don't know that much about it and I haven't got the time to like invest in watching like a bajillion hours of his content, because he makes just so much so much content. So I thought, well, what can I do? And I mentioned that to Anna, and she was like, well, I don't tend to talk about specific people. I just sort of use people as examples when I talk about stuff more broadly. So I thought I'll try that. And I actually really enjoyed making that video. It was really fun to make. And I enjoyed using different people as examples rather than just sort of speaking about one person specifically. So to answer your question about what you might be seeing from me in the new year, maybe more of that kind of content. If you like that kind of content, if people respond to it, then I'll be definitely doing a bit more of that kind of stuff. By the way, Anna's analysis, you've probably seen it already. It's way bigger than me, her channel, but check it out. She's doing some cool stuff over there. Really interesting analyses of sort of like influencers a lot of times, but she's talked a bit about the new age stuff as well. But yeah, anyway, so what else have we got here? What else have you said to me? Lovers One is a great example of the bite model. Yeah, that to be fair, that might be worth like doing a video on the bite model and using that and a few other groups as kind of a few sort of, hang on, there's background noise and I'm reading stuff and I'm distracted. So let me just get my thoughts together for a second. Yeah, it might be a good idea to do a video on the bite model and use groups like Lovers One and stuff as an example for that. That might be worth doing, or looking at specific areas of the bite model would be worth doing as well, because that's you know, it's worth talking about the bite model, and like Mark said here about the influence continuum, that's worth talking about, because it's surprisingly, you know, people talk about cults all the time, but that kind of stuff doesn't tend to come up as often, unfortunately. When people do, you know, people just sort of say, oh, it's a cult because it's weird and I don't like it, you know, which is not the best way to approach cults. I don't know what Dream SMP is. I have no idea what that is. So you have to tell me what that is. Marie, any new vids planned for your newest channel? Is that, do you mean the skin needle spell? No, not really. Like, I did that one and I want to do more at some point, but it's time consuming and sort of, you have to be in the mood. And also I feel like I'd just be moaning, and I hate to just moan. So I'm trying to figure out how I'll do that if I do that again. But really for me, that's just a bit of a, just a bit of a fun thing I've done sometimes. You know, I've written more for it, but I haven't made any of them into videos. Yeah, skin needle spell is there, but it's not necessarily doing anything at the moment. So yeah, Mark said here, people please check you're still subscribed as YouTube. I mean, hopefully you are still subscribed. Check if you are. I imagine you're here if you are. If you're subscribed, then that's why you're here. But yeah, because I've not been uploading. I haven't uploaded for like a month or something now. It's ridiculous. It's the longest I've gone not uploading since I've come back to YouTube. It's an absolute travesty. Yeah, please make sure you're subscribed. And you've got the notifications on as well. Oh, it's a Minecraft server full of YouTubers and Twitch streamers. Okay, fair enough. Lol. Yeah. Honestly, I'll round this up in a minute, because this has already gone on longer than I intended it to. But honestly, at some point in the future, when I've got like a good enough computer, I would love to do like Twitch streaming video games and stuff. I would legit love to do that. It would be ideal, and I'd probably do it most days, to be honest, because I do play some video game most days. I've been playing Townscaper the last few days, which I saw on a YouTube video. I've never bought something without like hesitating in quite the way that I bought that, because it's like city planning, but it's doodling a town. It's great. Anyway, that's nothing to do with this channel, so sorry about that. It's nothing to do with this, but I'd like to do something like that at some point, but I don't have the hardware for that at this point. So anyway, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you for coming here for this live stream. I realized that, you know, it's been a bit unusual this month with me not uploading, and then having before that been like, I'm going to upload, I've got these videos planned, and I had so much planned for this month. but I didn't plan on getting COVID. So there is that. Rest assured, those videos I will be making those videos soon. And they will be good. And hopefully I won't be coughing all the time then as well, because I'm coming up to the end of when I'm supposed to have symptoms of COVID, and hopefully it won't be contagious anymore. The minute I get my sense of taste back, I'm ordering a fucking pizza. I don't even care. I just don't even fucking care. I'm getting a fucking pizza and it's gonna be fucking ace. Anyway, right. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for your continued support. Please check out the Patreon if you like the kind of content I make and you want to help support the channel. That's the best way to do it. And also, yeah, follow me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter a lot at the moment because I've not really got much else to do. I'm just laying in bed other than now. So yeah, my @ is there in the bottom bar thing, but also all the links to everything as normal are in the description below as well. If you are talking to a QAnon person and you want to sort of you want some help on how to approach that and to hopefully bring them out of that, then as I say in the pinned comment below, it should be there. It was there last I checked, although it might have disappeared. You should be able to get that video that I made about helping a loved one out of a cult, which basically applies to this as well. But again, remember, not an expert, just share my point of view. So yeah, we're going to be actually putting our Christmas decorations up today because Rose's birthday was in the middle of December, so I didn't think like, oh, I feel a bit weird about putting Christmas decorations up when it's someone's birthday, because it's like sharing a thing, isn't it? So we normally wait till after, and then we got COVID, so we couldn't do that then. So yeah, we're putting those up today and squeezing every ounce of Christmas out of the next few days as we can. But we do also have a few oldies in the house who are currently on oxygen, so hopefully we all manage and everything's good. But yeah, take care everybody. Have a wonderful Christmas holiday time, and yeah, please also like the thing as someone said there, and like stream, and I will catch you maybe again this year, but possibly not. Maybe in the new year. I might do another live stream at some point. We'll see. Yeah, please take care of yourselves. Keep safe. Stay out of the COVID situation. Would not recommend. And yeah. All right. Bye, everyone. Please be kind and ask good questions. I forgot what I said there. Please be kind and ask good questions. And I'll see you in the next one. End broadcast. Bye.